talking about in terms of health and fitness, I think the main point we should discuss, and I think a lot what people should do is actually just getting started in their journey. A lot of people like to delay, saying, "Oh, I'm not fit enough to go to a gym," or "I'm not fit enough to join a run club," or "I'm not fit enough to start exercise." But we all start somewhere.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome back to the podcast Learniverse, a program designed to educate people on diverse range of content. I'm your host Ruhan Ahmed, joining you from the studios of MTA International Gambia. So dear viewers, whether you are just planning to start your physical journey, physical fitness journey, or you are someone looking to enhance your current routine, then this podcast will surely support you to achieve your goals. And helping me with the discussion today, I'm joined by Mr. George Elhajj. Welcome to the podcast, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for inviting me onto the show.
Yeah, thank you. So, physical fitness is achieved through different factors like nutrition and obviously exercise, and then the body needs rest.
Absolutely.
So all the three are very vital.
Yes.
So starting with nutrition, what is the philosophy of nutrition with physical fitness?
That's a very good question. It's a very open-ended one. I will start with saying, I'm not a qualified nutrition, but I have a good understanding of it and been, kind of working with it primarily with myself, and I give some advice to some clients as well. Nutrition is vitally important in supporting, your physical fitness journey, and in supporting what goals you may have. First of all, nutrition. To understand your nutrition goals, you have to also understand what your end goal is. Someone who's looking to run a marathon, or someone who's looking to become a power lifter, versus someone who's looking to do, a gymnastics-based exercise or a swimmer, will all have different goals. Yeah. And then that, you can delve down into a topic of, what does your, nutrition is primarily broken down into calorie intake, which is then broken down into protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And their body will demand different sources of energy via either some people will utilize carbohydrates better, some people will utilize fats better, but a real building block which seems to be quite quite consistent across all different athletes is protein. Protein is vital to ensuring you achieve your goals. Again, whether you want to build muscle, whether you want to lose fat, whether you just want to become a faster runner, or just your overall health and fitness.
Thank you very much for that. And but nowadays, obesity is a worldwide issue, and there are different kind of trainings which helps to control that. The likes of cardio training and strength training. So which one is actually better for weight loss? And if you can simplify the both as well.
Good question. So there's a battle out there as to what accelerates or aids fat loss. I think you can't have one without the other, right? I think it's even three. You touched on it. Your nutrition has to be in check, right? There's a lot of famous podcasters out there and vloggers who talk about calorie deficit. What that means is you need to be expending more energy than you're putting in. So basically, you need to do more than what you're eating. It's that simple. It doesn't need to be a lot. Some people talk about having a calorie deficit of 300-400 calories, right? Which is quite marginal in terms of what your daily input. I think for the average man, your calorie input should be about 2,500 to 3,000 calories. If you do a lot of exercise, obviously it should be a little bit more. Now, touching on cardio versus strength training, which one burns more calories? It depends. Are you going for a 10-minute workout, or you're going for a 40-minute workout. And, there's now new evidence to support that actual strength training does burn more calories in a shorter amount of time because you're using much more of like your skeletal muscle. But then again, that doesn't take away from aerobic training or aerobic conditioning. When you do cardio, I talk about you have zones 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Zone 1 is where we are now. Our heart rate is in zone 1. Zone 2 is going for a walk. Zone 3, where you start to come into your fat burning zone, which is probably 65 to 75% of your maximum heart rate. Zone 4 or 5, that's when you're absolutely out of breath and you're working at 100%. My belief for fat loss, and I will say this because it backs up our methodology that we have at the gym, is you need a combination of both. You need strength training supplemented with cardio, or cardio supplemented with some strength training. When I have members come in and they say, I want to lose weight, or I want to lean, or I want to put more muscle, we just adjust the balance. I will always say to people, you should always do a bit of cardio with, if you want to put on some muscle. And to those wanting to lose weight, say you need to supplement some strength training, right? Both help facilitate and accelerate fat loss. So I've made a point without making a point. So I believe if you want to start to lose weight, you need to do both in harmony, in balance. What that means, let's say if you're looking at a training week, one day you could be like, okay, today I'm going to walk 2-3 kilometers, or for someone slightly fitter, today I'm going to run 5 to 10 kilometers. What does that mean the next day? The next day you could be like, okay, I did my cardio yesterday. Today I'm going to do some compound lifts. I'm going to do some bench press. I'm going to do some squats. I'm going to do some deadlifts. And then the next day you can do a combination of both. So what we teach and we try to promote is, you can do a workout for 20 minutes, which has a combination of weight training with cardio, because a lot of people can be really, really good at weight training. Some people can be really, really good at running. The question is, can you lift weights when you're breathing really hard from running? And can a weightlifter lift his weights when he's on the fatigue? And can a runner run really well when you've fatigued them with weight training? And that's where I believe kind of like the magic happens, is at the end of the day, for example, can you run really well having moved a moderate to heavy weight? And then that is, again, whether I think the magic happens.
Yeah, okay. No, that's great. That's wonderful. So what about, after having an intense workout, obviously your body needs rest.
100%.
So what do you recommend for, what should be the recovery strategy after having an intense workout?
I'm the biggest advocate of, rest days. If you're the person who goes to the gym 7 times a week, all you're doing is raising the risk of injury. And it's not a case of if it will happen, it's a case of when it will happen. I live by the philosophy of I do like 2 days on, 1 day off. So 2 days in the gym, 1 day off. Or if sometimes I'll push it to 3 days on, 1 day off. But one of those days will be very, very, very light walk, or nothing more than a jog. By jog, I mean a conversational pace where me and you could run a few kilometers while still maintaining a conversation. That's the pace you want to go. That's, from a recovery perspective, that's called active recovery, because you're keeping your intensity down. So you're allowing your body to, get blood to the muscles and flush out your system. You're flushing out your lactic acid, and you're encouraging blood flow to the muscles. That's active recovery. 2, nutrition is vitally important. If you've had a very, very intense training day, it's getting the right nutrition in. Again, it's getting your carbohydrates in. That could be, the simple ones are the best ones. Rice, potato, pasta. Fats, classic fats to go to are anything like nut-based, cashew nuts, peanuts, peanut butter, yogurt, anything that has really good natural fat. And then obviously protein. Protein is extremely important especially for maintaining muscle mass and building muscle mass. So your fish, your chicken, beef, anything like that. So it's really important to have a really good meal after you train. But it's not just that good meal after, it's also before you're going to the gym. You want to maybe have a snack or a meal as well to provide the energy to the body ready for what's about to come. And it's also, especially in Gambia with the heat and with the rainy season coming, I'm sure everyone's starting to realize they're that little bit hotter, they're sweating a little bit more, is hydration. Hydration is really, really important, and making sure you get some good salts in the body if you can, salt in the body or electrolytes. But I think one thing I've learned here, people are they're not big users of salt, right? And salt is actually quite important for helping the body hydrate. You need good sodium levels, and sodium also has an impact on how your muscles work. So that's important.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and time and again we see number of trends on social media and online. So according to you, are there any popular fitness trends you think that they're overrated?
I do. I won't touch on any particular trends, but there's always going to be the new guy, the new trend, the new fitness fad, whatever it may be. And some of them may work, some of them don't. My greatest piece of advice to anyone is, you cannot beat consistency. Okay, whether you want to become a runner, a swimmer, a weightlifter, consistency always wins. So if you're going to try a new trend or a new fad, fine, just be consistent at it and you will see results. People are very good at, I went for 6 weeks, I saw nothing, I gave up. 6 months later, they're back again. They don't see any results for 4 to 6 weeks. They disappear again. Whereas, I'll use I use a gym as an example. We don't really do much marketing, but our marketing tools are our members, right? We've had members who've been there for a very, very long time. And from when they began their journey to where they are now, they've made huge strides and, they've achieved their goals and they're always pushing forward. And what better marketing tool than, Rohan, if you came to my gym 4 years later, you're achieving your goals, you're fit, you're healthy, you're strong, you speak volumes, right? Yeah. That our methodology is working. But it's not just the methodology, If someone say, how did Rohan achieve his goal? I'll be like, well, he comes 4 days a week. He is consistent, right? He's eating well. He's sleeping well. He's training well. I just touched on sleep, but sleep is also vitally important for recovery. If you're wanting to get health and fit and get the body prepared for what you want it to do, you need to be getting 7.5 to 8.5 hours sleep a day. It sounds like a lot. It is a lot, but if you want to put your body through rigorous work and exercise, you also need to put the effort into recovery. You can't have one without the other. Especially when you're training hard and you're doing weight training in particular. So I know weight training in Gambia is a very big thing. Everyone wants to bench press, everyone wants to deadlift, everyone wants to squat. And those are the big compound movements which use, the most amount of muscle, you're going to use to move such heavy weight. What that does is it impacts something called your CNS, which is your central nervous system. That is what kind of tells your central nervous system is the connection between your brain and your muscles. And it's like, come on, muscles, we need to work hard, we need to contract to move that weight. When you do a lot of weight training, you fatigue your nervous system. So I'm sure if you've ever done a big weight session, you wake up the next morning, you feel a bit slow, or you feel a bit like you don't feel as sharp. That's your nervous system just says, I'm a bit tired. So you need to look after that, and sleep helps your nervous system recover. Natural fats, as I mentioned, peanuts, avocado, yogurt, stuff like that. Your nervous system thrives on natural fats, so it's a really good source. So to sum it all up, there are good fads, bad fads out there. I would definitely just find a local gym, talk to the trainer, see what their thoughts are on achieving your goals. Make sure it's well balanced. Make sure your nutrition is supporting your goals. You're getting enough sleep. And you're taking enough, rest days, active recovery. And most importantly, I think the overall arching word is consistency. Mm-hmm. Consistency with diet, consistency with training, and consistency with recovery.
So any last piece of advice for the listeners?
If you're thinking of starting on your journey, get up and start it. A little bit goes a long way. Whether that means going for a walk or a run or a bike ride or, playing football on the beach, some people finding it easier by finding friends to do it with or family members. But yeah, don't think about it. Just, get up and do it. And, be patient, be consistent. And if you're, again, I think the key word for today's conversation has been consistency. If you're consistent with all of that, you'll see your goals be achieved. So don't be too hard on yourself. Be patient, and you'll get what you work hard for.
Thank you very much for your valuable insight, and it was our pleasure to have you today.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been fantastic to be here.
Thank you. So, dear viewers, that's all for today. Until we come your way, till then, take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
We should think about, for example, why don't we always focus innovators in the Gambia and glorify education and make sure that educational achievement is viral, for the young people, to creating role models in their faces all the time, making sure that, educational learning materials, digital materials are into little TikTok versions or podcast versions like you're doing now.